Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into the truly incredible story of David Adair. This is his first-person account of an alleged encounter with some kind of extraordinary technology. Deep, deep beneath the Nevada desert. And trust me, it's a story that really makes you question what we think we know about machines, life, and even consciousness itself. So we're going to start with this quote right here, because it's just so baffling. How on earth does a brilliant rocket scientist get to the point where he believes he's carrying an alien consciousness inside him? Well, to even begin to understand that, we've got to rewind. We have to go all the way back to the invention that kicked this whole crazy story off. Okay, so first up, the rocket engine genius. Our story starts with a young, and I mean really gifted inventor named David Adair. Now, this guy wasn't just, dreaming up theories about advanced rockets. No, he was actually in his garage building them. And what he created was something he called Peaslam. At the heart of this thing was a completely revolutionary engine, a self-contained fusion drive. The best way to think about it is like having a tiny, tiny sun perfectly contained and controlled to give off this insane, continuous power. This wasn't some idea on a whiteboard. He actually built it, and it was light years beyond anything publicly known at the time. And boy, was it fast. I mean, unbelievably fast. During a test launch over at White Sands, his rocket flew 125 miles in just 3.2 seconds. That is a speed that just shatters conventional rocketry. Now, a success like that, it definitely gets you noticed, but maybe not in the way you'd hope for.
Right, so that amazing test flight marks this sharp, totally unexpected turn in Adair's life. It takes him from a pretty standard military test site to one of the most secret, most heavily guarded places on the entire planet.
Literally, right after the launch, things take a pretty sinister turn. This mysterious, powerful guy named Arthur Rudolph just shows up and he completely ignores the official chain of command. He just walks in, takes total control of the whole project, and even puts Adair's own commanding officer under house arrest. You got the feeling this Rudolph guy was not someone you said no to. So, next thing Adair knows, he's on a plane to a new location. When he lands, he looks out into the desert and sees the parachutes from his own rocket. It had been brought down right there on purpose. He was at Groom Lake. Yep, you know it as Area 51. And the reason he was there was made pretty clear. We need to go look at something. That's why you're here.
And this is where the story, quite literally, goes underground. Adair was about to see something that would just completely flip his understanding of reality on its head.
He's taken inside what looks like a normal hangar. But then, the ground starts to shake. The entire floor was a massive elevator, and it starts going down, deep into the earth. Adair figured that dropped at least 200 feet, leaving the bright desert sun way, way behind them. The elevator doors slide open, and the sight is just breathtaking. It's this colossal, artificially lit cavern. A rainbow-shaped ceiling arches over his head, and it just stretches on and on and on. So far, you can't even see the end. It was like a cathedral of impossible size, hidden right under the desert. But here's the detail that is just so bizarre: the light. Even though the whole cavern was incredibly bright, nothing, and I mean nothing, cast a shadow. He held up his own hands, looked at all this massive equipment around him. No shadows, anywhere. It was a place that just shouldn't exist. So, they're moving through this weird, shadowless underworld towards their goal. And there, in the distance, sitting on this huge platform, was the whole reason he'd been brought down there. It was another electromagnetic fusion containment engine. And here's the crazy part. Its basic design was eerily familiar. He used the exact same figure-8 plasma flow that he had designed for his own rocket. But that's where the similarity stopped. This thing looked completely alien. He described it like two octopuses twisted together, made from a material that looked more like it was grown than built. As he walked closer, something impossible happened in that impossible, shadowless place. For the first time, he saw a shadow. It was his own. And it was being cast by the engine. And even stranger, the shadow lagged just a split second behind his actual movements. So of course, he has to investigate. He climbs up the side of this machine on this kind of lattice exoskeleton. He sees two dome-shaped things that look like controls, and he figures, okay, these must be hand panels, so he puts his hands on them. The second he does, whump, interlocking rings shoot up and trap all 10 of his fingers, clamping right down on his knuckles. He starts to panic, obviously, but then this calm, kind of sultry voice echoes, not in the cavern,
but directly inside his head. And it had of all things a Lauren Bacall accent. The voice just said, "David, quiet." He was having a totally silent conversation with this machine, and nobody else there could hear a thing.
Okay, so what happened in those next few minutes, while he was physically hooked up to this thing, would completely change the rest of his life and everything he thought he knew about reality.
Eventually, the machine let him go, and as he was being walked away, he looked back at the engine. He'd seen this blue light glowing from deep inside a damaged part of its core, and now it was dark. It was as if something had just left the machine the moment he did.
But according to him, the communication never actually stopped. It wasn't a voice anymore, but this constant flow of feelings and impressions. And through this connection, he says he learned its name was Ptah, and its origin, well, it's just mind-boggling. An 8.2 times billion-year-old being, born not on a planet, but in the deep oceans between the galaxies. I mean, the scale of that claim is just staggering.
So this is really the heart of his entire testimony. Adair truly believes that when that blue light went out, the ancient consciousness of Ptah left its broken home and joined with him. He claims he carries it with him to this very day, a permanent, unbroken connection to a being that's billions of years old.
Look, David Adair's story is absolutely incredible. For many, it's almost unbelievable. But whether you believe a single word of it or not, it forces you to ask some really profound questions. You know, where is the line between a complex machine and a living thing? What even is consciousness, and where does it come from? And if a machine could live for billions of years, just imagine what it could teach us about the universe and about ourselves.